Okay, so here's what I would call normal acceleration. Okay, now here's what I would call hard acceleration. Okay, at this point, I've got the exhaust taken off of the car. Like I said, this was that piece I bought from O'Reilly's. Had to reattach this heat shield. Did not come with it, but wasn't a big deal. Had the hangers on it, pretty good location. Had this resonator in here. We'll come back to that. And on the back side here, where it mounts to the muffler, the previous piece I have over there. It's going to be a pain to dig out. Actually, it's right there. Perfect. The previous piece had this heat shield on it, and why that's needed is it goes right up above, right below the gas tank, so I figured that that's probably a good thing to have. So I went ahead and fabricated this heat shield out of just some steel I had laying around. Since that weld, I've gotten a Hobart wire feed welder, so hopefully I get some nicer welds than the stick weld. Hanger doesn't line up, it doesn't matter, I don't use that hanger back there anyway, and everything's rigid, just use the one for the mufflers. So I wanted to point out here one thing on the resonator. So the resonator that came with it, this section of pipe, was, I would say, 12 inches. So the one behind it that I bought is 18, so I'm going to call that 12 inches. And now one thing that I'm a little concerned about is that this resonator does not actually have any packing in it. I was kind of afraid of that when I put it on. My old section of pipe didn't have a resonator in it at all. Put this new section on and the sound quality didn't change like at all. So it kind of got me thinking, well, what if that's, you know, for 85 bucks for this whole thing? I wonder if that's just a piece of swelled tube or something. And one thing I noticed when I pulled this off, I did the old tap test here. So if you listen to this, see how tinny and ringy that is? I mean, there's no chance that that's going to muffle any kind of sound out going down the pipe. So, you know, that raspy sound that you have, this is just going to amplify it. Now, if we come over here to this new 18-inch that I bought, and it was cheap. I'm kind of hesitating to put such a cheap one on here. It was $12 from Rock Auto. But you can tell by tapping on it, it's much more dead. And the reason for that is if we look in here, we see these spiraled louvers, and there's actually a slit in them. And so what happens there, that slit allows the exhaust gases to go from the, from the ID of this tube to the OD of the tube. It's a 3-inch diameter. And between that 1 3/4 inch pipe, like your stock exhaust, and the 3-inch OD is fiberglass packing. And so what that's going to do is when the exhaust flows through there, that fiberglass packing is going to help deaden the sound, and that's why when you tap on it, it sounds more dead. And then if we look at the back side here, you can see the louvers, but there's no slit in it. So in order to have the best chance at decreasing the sound and decreasing the raspiness, we're going to mount it with the open louvers towards the engine, so the exhaust gas will flow directly into those louvers. And rather than just pull this section out, I am going to add this 18-inch section here up front. So we'll just cut this out, weld that new piece in there, paint it up, and call it good. I've also got a little bore scope, so I think what I'm going to do is when I cut this piece of tube, I'm going to run my bore scope down there, and we'll take a look at this resonator and see if there's actually any packing in there, or if it's just a swelled piece of tube. More to come. Thought I'd just update you guys for now. Okay, so I made the marks on what I'm going to replace. I drew a straight line across the full section of tailpipe that I cut out. And the reason I did that is so that when we go back together with the resonator, even though it's a perfect cylinder, we want the clocking of this flange to be correct. So what I'm doing is just using that marker there, and that'll line directly up on it. So then I measured my 18-inch section, made a mark there. That's where I'm actually gonna weld the end on. Same thing over here on the back side. And so that's that 18 inches where that's gonna weld. So to give myself room for the weld, I came in a 1/2 inch, and that's where I made my cut. So then I've got a 1/2 inch worth of pipe there that sticks in. But one thing I did want to point out, said I'd run my borescope down there. Turns out I don't need to. I can see with my light down here. Hopefully it'll show up on the camera. Yeah, maybe a little bit. So you can see in there that that's actually a perforated style resonator. I don't know how best to describe it. You probably just have to look it up on YouTube. But it's not a it's not spiralized louvers like that one I'm putting on. It's perforated, so it's like a straight through design, but then the OD just has it's like a mesh essentially, and that's where the packing is. I still don't think it's great. Still don't like the sound of it, but we'll add this piece in there and see if it makes any difference. So when I go to weld up here, big things to keep in mind is that we want to keep everything square. So there'll be a lot of measuring before we actually get to tack it on, but we'll go from there. And so what I'm going to do next is, since I'd had these painted up, I'm going to clean these edges up so I get a nice surface to weld to. And since I know that I cut this a 1/2 inch in, when I take my mark off there, I can just put my new mark a 1/2 inch back, and then I'll be right on. Also, I used the seam to mark my black line as well for the clocking. That way, if that black paint comes off or something, I still have an idea of where to go with it. So we'll continue on. Okay, so here we are. Got it welded up. There was 2 sections of it, so this section I double passed, and this section I just put a big fat bead on and got it welded up. I was not paying attention, and I welded it in the opposite way of I wanted it. So I started to cut it off, and redo it, and I was thinking to myself, well, what a good time to see if that actually makes a difference. So what we're going to do is stick that under the car and take some videos of it, see how it sounds, and then we'll flip it around and see if it makes any different sound. So mess up, turn into a quick little test, hopefully. Okay, back at it now. Got the heat shield back on. Resonator is welded on the correct direction now. I assume correct direction. Went ahead and put a really fat weld down there to cover everything. And then I have some exhaust paint. Went ahead and painted it just like that silver color there. Hopefully not corrode as much. So I'm gonna work on putting it under the car now. Update more in a little while. Okay, so here we go. Medium acceleration. Normal acceleration.
go, fast acceleration, 0 to 60.
Okay, so the Civic is complete, got the exhaust installed on it. I would say leave 2 hours to do it properly. That would be from tools taken out to tools putting up. I'll try to leave a link in the YouTube video, but it was just a 18-inch long by 3-inch diameter, 1.75-inch resonator, bought off Rock Auto. At the time, it was like 12 or 13 bucks, so pretty cheap. When I put it on the wrong way, I did notice a huge decrease in noise, and honestly, I thought there was no difference between the incorrect way and the correct way. But once I went back through and looked at the videos, you can still hear some of that raspiness with it installed in the reverse direction. So I would say if you're wanting to muffle the noise as much as possible, to definitely put the slits facing the engine side so the exhaust flow is directed into the packing. I would say it made a huge difference. Pretty much got rid of all the raspiness altogether. And I'm happy with it. So time will tell. It's a Rock Auto part for 12, 13 bucks. Heard those like to break down pretty quick, but we'll see. If they do wind up breaking down quick, I'll update a video and let you guys know. Thanks.